Hi guys, so today we're going to talk about this Parisian door and this kind of balcony, and we're going to paint it in this kind of urban sketch style. I wanted to actually, when I sketched this out, I wanted to do a comparison of styles between sort of this urban sketch and a more kind of realistic style, but I'm not sure if we're going to do that or not, or if we'll just kind of stick to the one urban sketching sketch today, and we'll go through it step by step, how to create all the shapes, how to take some complex shapes and simplify those. So there are lots of differences between this kind of sketch style and a more realistic style, and one of them is the way to approach form and color. So for example, in this style we can just kind of sketch out an approximate form, and we don't sort of spend a lot of time creating those shadows and creating the depth and the highlights and the contours and everything. And it's just a nice way to, and we probably wouldn't spend as much time mixing color and things like that. We're just trying to get a nice idea of the color palette we want to use, and you know, a kind of an idea of the form and things like that. So let's go through this step by step and we'll see how we go. And so one of the other main factors between the styles would be time. This can be done in a short amount of time, and you know, it's quite nice to have something done quickly and it's achievable. So I think we'll leave it with this sketch kind of style in this video, and if I can, I'll sort of come back and talk about some things to do the other style in another video, in like a part 2, or you know, we might leave it because there will be other videos coming up where we can sort of go more in depth into that. So so we're going to use this uni pin 0.05. Okay, so the thing about it is you're just looking for the simple kind of shapes, and here we can see, like, around here we have a big square basically, so that's an easy place to start. You want to, when you're sketching, so the lines don't have to be perfect, or you can, like, you could, so if you want your lines to be more straight, you can definitely use like a little ruler, and that's really easy to just get that in there and get the lines straight. But I think the whole point of this kind of sketch style is that the lines are more organic. So basically we're just going to go first in and just sketch this box, the sort of the square part of the doorway. So I like to use the 0.5 because I just like a wisp of a line. Some people like to use, you know, a thicker one, like a just a 0.5, so not 0.05 but a 0.5, so it's quite a thick line. And I can show you the difference probably between, so I just like you know, I don't want the line to be sort of too overbearing on the sketch. I just kind of want a small small boundary there. And okay, so now we're going to go in and do this next square here. And what you can see here is, you know, I pencil sketched this out first, just so that I could have a reference, so I wasn't having to sort of rub anything out, and wouldn't take time. But I'm actually just correcting any sketch lines there that, you know, may not have been exact. And so next we'll just go in, there's another square here, so we'll just go in and this is based on a sort of I think a doorway that I'd seen on someone's feed, but it's not an exact sort of replica there. So okay, so now we have, I think that's crooked. So the good thing about with this little pen here is that you can just sort of correct lines like that, and then you can kind of make that sort of even a shadow area. What I like about this little pen. So next we're going to do the arched doorway. So What I'm trying to do here is just break it down into simple shapes and show you how you can, you know, easily sketch something like this. So we have the arched doorway. We have then just this straight line across here, and then we have another little, a similar shape here. Then we have the two rectangles in the doorway. Now, if you were actually urban sketching, I mean, you may not have to do this much detail, but this is kind of an amount of detail that I like. So then we have just the middle of the doors. Then we have these sort of the bricks here. And so we're not going right across, we're just kind of giving an indication that they're there. So okay, and then they go up here as well. So okay, and then we'll do sort of the top of this arch here, which has another little there. Okay, so then we start to put in some of these little details, and these are just all, again, straight lines, very simple sort of step-like shape. And here, step-like shape, and then here we have little, basically, rectangles that have sort of curved corners. So just a bunch of those in the windows here. I wasn't zoomed in when I showed you these like kind of smaller detail parts. So I'm just going to go over that again now while we're here. So what we're doing now is the little triangles for the door, and I think you can see here a little bit better, there's some little curves going like that. When you break a more complex shape down into more simple shapes, it becomes suddenly a lot easier to do. So then here we just have they're basically those kind of Parisian shapes, so it's almost like a clover-like shape here, and then it comes down into some. And the good thing about sketching like this is that you know, these shapes are, you don't have to do the whole shape, you're just kind of trying to make a little impression of some panels. So we have the kind of like a clover, if you want to, you know, that's kind of a good representation. And then we have some curves going out like this, some curves kind of coming back in, and then I've just basically drawn like a little teardrop shape there. And then I've just gone back in with basically one side of the sort of inside the clover and maybe a little bit sort of outside there, just to give that, and maybe something in the middle, just a few little lines there to give that a bit of shape. So when that's really tiny, you can barely see kind of some of the old French door knockers. So again, we're just kind of picking out some areas, and then the actual round door knocker part. And again here, I'm kind of doing, so two kind of curves, and then just putting a little bit of, again, another sort of little curve, some little curls like that. So just adding a few lines of detail like that, and then I might go in the middle of there. Okay, now for here, we have the two parts. Again, you can see this is straight lines and angles. Then we have the arch again. And if you wanted, you know, I can do more of a video about how to do some of these little kind of flourishes. We'll do this next part of the archway here. And that had kind of two parts. Simplify this shape is just to do sort of an oval, some ovals at the top and the bottom, and then basically some scalloped sort of shapes around here. So a little bit around there, a bit around here. So that's certainly one way that you could just really simplify this. What I've actually done here is kind of two sides of the oval, and then this top shape here is like, kind of starts out as a square. We have the bottom curve and then two curves in like that. And then just for the bottom, I've done sort of an oval a little bit, so it's a bit below where that would join up, and then just almost, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 little sort of scallops there. And then I've also done them at the top here, and you can sort of add a bit of a curve in there, so a bit more movement as well. And then we have, instead of just a regular scallop, it's more like a petal. So we have that there, there, and then we can just sort of add some to the top around here. And then what I've done here is just some little just like that. We have another line here. And so these are the little kind of details that make all of the lines, just make them shine a little bit. So here we have just another basic rectangle. With a rectangle in the middle of it. And then we have a lot of C shapes basically. So we have here, and then just adding an extra line of it to make it a bit more full. And then just backwards C shapes, little C shapes, large C shapes on a different angle, half C shapes. So, and I'm just doing this very loosely. You could take your time and do, you know, do them a little bit more kind of neater. So you're just kind of putting those in there, some overlapping ones. And then we have some little diamonds in there to sort of start it and finish it. Okay, so then we're on the home stretch, and then we do the straight lines for the top here, the sort of archway at the top. I'm losing my place here. Archway at the top. Then we have just the windows, which again is simple squares. And we have the line at the top here. Again, the squares. And then the line down the middle here. So then we want to just put in, again, like the stonework, the suggestion of diamonds. Those really nice old sort of LED light windows. So you want to try and keep the lines about the same width apart, but they don't need to go right across the square. Okay, and then just to top it all off, we have another one of those sort of shapes. So these are just basically made of curves. So you have a curve and then a little bit of curve, curve, curve. Okay, so that is our Parisian doorway. And now we can colour it. So to colour it, we are going to use this Escoda Reserva number 6. And because this is more of like a sort of sketch-based painting, we don't have to do kind of we don't have to overwork it. So we want to get in the basic blocking of the colour. Again, I like to start with the lightest sort of colour, so I'm going to go in with some French ochre, and we are going to just start with the stonework. So what we want is to try and make some of that, the lovely colour of the, and because this is the uni pin, it's not going to, it's waterproof, so it's not going to run. So we just start here, and then we don't have to fill in, like I'm not filling in the whole thing, so I kind of want the suggestion of sort of shadows and so what I'm doing here is I'm just getting a bit more colour and just kind of adding that in. Colour out here if I want. While that's wet as well, I might actually try putting a little bit of, so this is hematite, so I might try putting a bit of that in. Sort of gives a little bit more of an aged look to some of the stonework there. Alright, now for the next part of the stonework, I'm going to do the opposite, and I'm going to put in just the hematite. And you can see how I'm not being very careful, because this is just more of a sort of a sketchy. So now I'm just going to put a little bit of the French ochre in here. And let's go up here and do this as well while we're here. Alright, so okay, so we've got the basics of the door. I want to wait till this is dry to do the door, because I don't want that kind of bleeding in there. So, but let's do this little stone. I think they're called cabochons or something like that. So, these are my favourite part of the buildings, the little carvings on above the doorways and above like the windows and things. So, let's just put in some of that. And then I'll also get bit of hematite to put here in the... They always have like a nice little bit of sort of aged stonework in here where the water kind of seeps on the stones for years. So let's just kind of put that in, and it also kind of helps us define shadow a little bit. Okay. Right door. So now I'm going to do just a door the color that I would have if it was my door, which would be fuchsia, which would be the mint green. So just going around the edges here. And the nice thing here is if you do it in stages like this, then it's sort of already giving that suggestion of the shadow without you sort of doing much work. So just getting a tiny bit more water there. All right, and then, you know, to that, to sort of make that pop a bit, we can add some other sort of little bits of colour, but I always struggle with sort of knowing what colours to add, and I don't want to take away from that colour, so it's always really difficult. I feel like a lot of times the doors are that kind of one sandstone or sort of that limestone, and then they have different coloured bricks and things around the outside. So what we might do here, might actually just see how we go with hematite here. So I'm just popping a bunch of that on with water here. Okay, I'm going to put the water down first on this side, and then just let that gradually sort of seep into that. So we're putting down less on this side to sort of make this side look more shadowy. Okay. Now for this part here, let's go back to the French ochre. So I'm just putting the water down again first, and then we're going to just go in with the colour here. And okay, for the balcony, we want some black, or, you know, a shadow sort of colour. I'm just going to go here with black. You want to be careful here if the sort of bottom isn't dry, that's going to seep in a little bit. And so again, like where I think there needs to be more pigment, I just go back in and just pop more, you know, to make that color more concentrated. Alright, so that is our balcony. Now we're going to do the sandstone kind of around here. And you know, you can go in with other browns, other colors, sort of, while it's wet as well, you can, you know, deepen those colors up a bit. You can add extra colors, or you can wait till it's dry and do kind of another layer over the top. But this kind of works for me, and so I might, so basically the doorways are generally the sandstone, the same kind of stone as well, so we're just going to go back in with the French ochre. But if you wanted to make that a different color, you could, you know, bring some of this fuchsite in, which is what I was kind of trying to decide. But I think you know, do I want to bring some of this up here? And I probably do, but I'm not sure if I want to do that in the windows. Let's just put some water in here and see. So there we go. So you can just bring a little bit of the color up into like the windows there. And then we'll just do, so if the colors, you know, for me, I like to, again, do the, so I'm just putting a little bit of the hematite in here to give a little bit of shadow around that stone there. And basically we're done here. We might just add some, you know, a light kind of wash here. So that's a bit darker than I wanted. And you can see with the windows, I've kind of just done it on the one side to sort of show the reflection in the glass there. And I might come in and just do a little bit of French ochre kind of here. So that's basically our little sketch, our little painting finished. And see the sparkle there in the fuchsite. So I'm just going to now go back in and put in one of my favorite parts, which is my gold Winsor & Newton drawing ink with this nib pen. Just shake that up to make sure that the gold is kind of thoroughly mixed there. I dip the pen in, and let's see if I can do this. I think I need to sort of Okay, so that is the end result, the gold. It's one of my favorite things about any page. And that is our little Paris doorway. So I hope you enjoyed this. Oh, the other thing I wanted to show you, I've been doing some kind of sketches and working on a little kind of a Christmas interiors. I love how the tiles worked out. So we'll do a tutorial on that at some point. Yeah, so I'm working on a few things for you, and I will see you soon. Bye for now.